Years after the rapture, the world is silent and empty. An old, crumbling church stands with faded religious paintings on its walls. Inside, a woman in white quietly paints. Her brush reveals a haunting image of a blonde girl. In contrast to the stillness of the church, we meet Azrael, a young blonde woman surviving in the forest, foraging for food and materials to craft a bracelet from twigs and berries. The simple act of making this bracelet shows that Azrael still clings to small tokens of humanity, even in this brutal world. Suddenly, Azrael notices a fire burning nearby. The sight of smoke sent a jolt of fear through her. Rushing toward the source, she finds a man, her lover, Kenan, casually cooking by the fire. Panic sets in as Azrael quickly extinguishes the flames, her eyes scanning the horizon for unseen threats. Her anger flares, and the intensity of her worry makes it clear that something terrible could have been drawn to the fire. Kenan, oblivious to the danger, smiles as Azrael surprises him with the bracelet she had crafted. For a moment there is tenderness between them, but their joy is short-lived. A sharp whistle pierces the air, sending both Azrael and Kenan into a state of alarm. This whistle is not a casual sound but a signal, a warning that they are being hunted. Without a word, the two part ways, running in different directions, hoping to throw off whoever or whatever is following them. As Azrael dashes through the woods, her heart races. Her footfalls are muffled by the underbrush, but she knows she is not alone. Suddenly, she comes across a boy blocking her path. In a moment of hesitation, she freezes, unsure of what to do. The pause costs her dearly, as another man emerges from the shadows and captures her. Azrael's struggle is futile. She is thrown into a car, helplessly bound, and separated from Kenan, who is also captured and taken into another car. The car ride is claustrophobic, the trunk pressing in on her as she thrashes to escape. After what feels like an eternity, the car stops. Azrael is dragged out, and her captors haul her to sacrificial ground. The scene is grim and unsettling. She is tied to a chair, unable to move, and watches in terror as Josephine, the captor's fearsome leader, steps forward. Josephine, cold and detached, makes a deep incision on Azrael's leg, her blood spilling onto the ground. The ritual begins. But then something goes wrong. The wind begins to swirl in strange, unnatural patterns, and Josephine's calm expression shifts to one of worry. The captors, suddenly scared, turn away from Azrael and start breathing heavily in a strange, ritualistic way. Azrael's heart races as a dark figure appears in the distance, a monstrous, shadowy creature drawn by the smell of blood. Panic rises in her as the beast gets closer, and she struggles to free herself. She manages to free one arm, but when one of the captors sees her breaking loose, he rushes over to tie her down again. Azrael fights back, stabbing him in the neck with a sharp piece of wood. The monster grabs the captor and devours him, tearing into his flesh with horrifying hunger. Amid the chaos, as the creature feasts, Azrael seizes the chance to escape, disappearing into the wilderness. Adrenaline propels her forward as she flees through the dense forest, her leg burning from the cut Josephine inflicted. When she reaches a river, Azrael stops to clean the wound, using herbs to slow the bleeding. Her mind races, thoughts of Kenan flooding her, but there's no time to dwell. As night falls, the danger intensifies. Another of the monstrous creatures lurks nearby, its senses tuned to the scent of human blood. Azrael hides, pressing her wound to staunch the flow of blood, holding her breath until the creature lumbers away, narrowly avoiding detection. Determined to rescue Kenan, Azrael tracks the captors back to their settlement. She sneaks through the camp, her eyes scanning for any sign of him. Amidst the dark structures, she finds the bracelet she had given him, a grim reminder that he is somewhere near. Her search leads her to the cult's church, where she witnesses a strange ceremony. The cultists, led by Miriam, the enigmatic woman in white, huddle around a hole in the wall, listening to eerie sounds emanating from within. The entire scene is otherworldly, as if the hole itself is a portal to something dark and unholy. Azrael, hiding beneath the church, watches in horror as Josephine is chastised by Miriam for failing to complete the ritual. The atmosphere grows tense, and the shadows seem to press in on them, but before she can escape unnoticed, Josephine spots her. A violent chase ensues, with Azrael barely escaping into the night, her heart pounding in her chest as the cultists pursue her with unrelenting fervor. As night sets in, Azrael's pulse races. Her hand, cut from barbed wire, leaves a trail of blood that lures a monstrous creature toward her. Panic grips her, and she bolts, the blind beast chasing her relentlessly. In her frantic escape, she's nearly run down by a car. The driver, a man who can speak, offers her refuge, but the relief is short-lived. Azrael gestures toward the scar on her throat, signaling her inability to speak. She and all the survivors of the apocalypse have chosen to surgically remove their vocal cords, convinced that speech is a sin. Just as she begins to feel safe, the man is shot by one of the cultists. Chaos erupts. She seizes control, swerving the car toward the shooter, but they crash into a wall. The driver is dead, and Azrael, wounded and desperate, is thrust into a brutal fight with the cultist. The struggle between them is intense, both giving everything they have. In a decisive moment, Azrael manages to grab the cultist's gun and, with steady determination, stops him, securing her victory and ensuring her survival. Exhausted and wounded, Azrael stumbles upon Keenan again, only to realize she has walked straight into a trap. Keenan is tied up as bait, and before she can free him, a hidden snare snaps, leaving her hanging upside down from a tree. As the cultists close in, the wind howls, and the creatures, drawn by the scent of her blood, attack the cultists with brutal force. Azrael frees herself just in time to witness the gruesome death of Keenan as one of the monsters begins devouring him. Desperate to save him, she rushes to help, but another creature attacks her. In a fierce struggle, she manages to kill the monster and save herself. With nothing left to lose, Azrael channels her grief into a burning desire for revenge. She makes her way back to the cult's camp, determined to end it all. Using a whistle sound, she lures the armed guards away and slips into the camp undetected. She quietly enters the church, a gun clenched in her hand. There she finds Miriam, the cult leader, standing at the altar, her belly swollen with an unborn child. But this is no ordinary pregnancy. Miriam carries the seed of something far darker. As Azrael hesitates, Miriam strikes and knocks her unconscious. Then they drag her body to an unknown place and throw her into a grave. When she regains consciousness, she realizes she's being buried alive in a coffin, her body smeared with blood from a strange ritual. With only a small lamp for light, she crawls through a narrow underground tunnel and comes face to face with one of the monsters. Panicking, she quickly crawls back to her coffin, but the creature follows. It snarls at her but hesitates when it smells Miriam's blood on her hands and spares her life. Seizing the moment, Azrael escapes, clawing her way out of the grave. As the cultists sleep, Azrael sets their camp ablaze. Josephine, consumed with panic, tries to save her mother from the fire, but the flames spread too quickly. In the chaos, Azrael stalks her prey, picking off the cultists one by one, including Josephine. Her mission of vengeance brings her back to the church, where she confronts Miriam for the final time. Azrael storms into the church, machete in hand, ready to confront Miriam. But the cunning leader ambushes her, swinging a cleaver that shatters Azrael's weapon, leaving her vulnerable. As Miriam grapples with her, Azrael sinks her teeth into her neck, ready to finish the fight. But in a shocking twist, Miriam's water breaks, signaling the onset of labor. Just then, Josephine bursts onto the scene, shotgun in hand, but Azrael evades her shot. A fierce struggle ensues as they grapple for control, and in a moment of desperation, Azrael stabs Josephine in the neck with the cleaver. Josephine collapses, blood pouring from her wound, while a haunting cry fills the air. It's the sound of a newborn. Miriam has given birth, but the joy is short-lived. As the baby cries, its wails morph into something sinister, chilling Miriam to the bone. In a panic, she takes a machete and slits her throat, her life extinguished in an instant. Outside, the wind howls violently, drawing the attention of the monstrous creatures lurking nearby. They converge on the church, howling in unison as Azrael holds the demonic baby, its grotesque features, goat-like face and multiple eyes, revealing its connection to dark prophecies. The film closes with a shocking twist as Azrael smiles at the baby Antichrist, her intentions now veiled in darkness, hinting at a new era of chaos to come, and the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated.